Sit back through the process. Little by little, piece by piece, a nigga trying to eat, trying to testing. Y'all hear me out there? Indio Media Group. We are live. What's going on? We are live from the headquarters. At the end of the day, March 1st, 2021. What's going on, everybody? I'm still trying to get everything right, trying to get this thing in a rhythm. What better way to get it in rhythm? There's some great music. What's up? Well, my name is C-Mill. I'm your host. Government name Chris. I love sharing ideas, love sharing new content. That's what we're here to do. So yeah, let me cut this down a little bit. I want to get into some topics. Today's topics, it being March 1st, the first day after Black History Month. Shout out to everybody who took the time to learn something new and took the time to honor the achievements and the contributions to this world that Black people, especially in America, foundational Black Americans, the contributions that we have given this country, a country that doesn't seem to love us back. You know, if we, I don't know if we'll get there one day, but it's just, we got to take all the acknowledgement that we can get. So I just want to shout out everybody who took the time to either spread information about Black history or, learn new information about Black history or, try to achieve some sort of Black history this month. Any Black people that did something historical, I definitely salute you. And, let's just keep it up all year round. Let's make Black history 12-month process. That's it. Especially for us and our young people, we got to continue to spread that knowledge, spread that love. But now it's March 1st. It's International Women's Day. Shout out to all the women. One of the things I want to get into, so, y'all know at the end of the day, or for those that don't know, anybody that's new to my format, I like to talk about a lot of things. I just don't stay in one realm. I'll talk about pretty much anything that I develop an opinion on after I research. It could be sports, news, entertainment, science, technology, and I'm definitely going to have some guests on here from time to time, especially people with more expertise and on the topics at hand. But today I got a few things that I'm on fire about. One of the things it's NBA news. Now that basketball is in full swing, I think it's very important that we acknowledge another Black coach getting fired in professional sports, in American professional sports. Lloyd Pierce of the Atlanta Hawks. I just want everybody to know that I don't agree with this firing at all. I think it's ridiculous in nature. I think it's absurd, especially given the situation he was in. And I got a few ways I could approach this, but I just want to come out and make sure that that's understood, that this was a bad decision. The Atlanta Hawks, you're a bad franchise, and you're going to be a bad franchise for a very long time because you refuse to stick it out. You refuse to play the long game. There are no shortcuts to building a contender. Now, I know what people are going to say. Well, the Atlanta Hawks, they signed a lot of free agents this year. They signed a bunch of old guys to mid-level contracts, and they gave a lot of money to Danilo Gallinari. Gallinari's old in NBA years. But what I want to say is, yes, they acquired some veteran talent this year, trying to develop a foundation of performance and finally surround the hot shot, Trae Young, with some real talent, with some veterans, guys who know what they're doing out there, not just the Lord of the Flies situation where you got a bunch of kids running around like the Lakers were before LeBron got there with no leadership. No, you surrounded them with veterans. They took a step forward this year. They're markedly improved, if you ask me. But they were only going to go so far because it's the first time you've actually tried to win actual basketball games. And I'm looking at the story here. Their record this year is 14-20. Now, given that the Atlanta Hawks have been as bad as they were the last 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 14-20 is a decent record. It is a decent record, especially given the situation in the NBA right now. You're playing a compressed compacted schedule, right? I'm sorry, I'm adjusting the microphone here. You're playing a compressed, compacted schedule. Guys are playing every other night. Very rarely is a team getting 2 nights off. They're playing back-to-backs. They're playing home and home series like in baseball. They're traveling and they got to wake up every day. They don't get to sleep because they got to wake up early and get their COVID test done every single day, every day of the week. It is ridiculous. And Lloyd Pierce has been developing a solid core. But in the NBA these days, he had to start with a total rebuild. He started from the bottom. He got Trae Young high in the lottery. And, I mean, what was to be expected, right? You're going to get a 5'10" point guard that is a scoring machine. Steph Curry 2.0, that's what you're hoping for, on a team that had nothing. Everybody was gone from the previous regime and the previous era that was there when Budenholzer left and, the Al Horfords had long been gone, all of the veteran leadership. What was to be expected? I want to say something. In the NBA, a total rebuild means 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 years. And the only shortcut is if some apex predator sort of player, a bona fide aircraft carrier superstar, decides to come to your franchise and insert himself or with your young talent, and that team is also surrounded by some very key veterans, especially on the wings. Just that is the only way it's going to work. And the Atlanta Hawks, they don't have the best history of being a competent franchise. That's just not what they do. They don't make great decisions, right? And they haven't for the 36 years I've been alive. They just haven't been great, ever. But right now, you gave Lloyd Pierce, this young, talented assistant coach from Philly, a nice foundation. You gave us some draft picks. That's the foundation you gave him. You gave him cap space, and you're supposed to give him room to set a system in place and to develop a culture there of winning in a style of basketball that is actually sustainable. Well, Trae Young is Trae Young. He's as good as advertised. He came in the class with Luka, and by all accounts, he's just as good as Luka Doncic is. He's just not in that as good a position. Then you got John Collins. So you get John Collins in there. He's a pretty good young power forward with a lot of potential. Then you draft DeAndre Hunter, another good player. And you know what? You were getting your ass kicked because you were a tank team that was learning how to build with younger players. You got Kevin Werder, one of the bright young three-point shooting specialists in the NBA right now. I don't quite understand what their issue was. What did they expect? What was the timetable given to Lloyd Pierce? You go out this season, you sign Rajon Rondo, you sign Danilo Gallinari and a couple other guys. All these guys are over the hill. They're just veteran contributors, but you really don't have, a superstar on the roster to show the kind of improvement that obviously probably wouldn't have gotten Lloyd Pierce fired. It doesn't make sense at all. So that's it. I just don't understand what they were expecting at 14-20, especially given the dicey situation with COVID and the injuries that every NBA team is putting up with because of the lack of recovery time, having to go through testing. These guys don't get to sleep. This is a very rough schedule. Given the circumstances, 14-20 for the Atlanta Hawks, and they were only a few games out of the 8th spot in the East because the East isn't that great at all this year. I think that's a success. I saw improvement. 14-20 is not a terrible record. You go 3-3 over your next games. Now you're 17-23. And now if you can get a stretch of 6 games where you can go 5-1, you catch some bad teams, you get hot on a road trip. Now you're actually talking about making the playoffs because in the East, there's going to be multiple sub 500 teams in the playoffs. And other teams have improved as well. So I don't understand what the Atlanta Hawks are expecting. And these are the type of decisions that are made that are going to keep your franchise bad forever, because here was a bright young coach and he was not given enough time to rebuild. The Lakers, yes, they won the championship last year in the bubble. They got their bubble ring. But the transition from Kobe to LeBron was a long one. It takes time. I don't understand. LeBron had to drop in on that roster, and still that wasn't enough. So they had to go make a move for AD and surround them with veterans. That is how teams are built the fast way. How many LeBrons out there are going to be available? There's only one LeBron. How many ADs out there are going to be available? Probably none, especially none that want to come to Atlanta. You got to cultivate your big stars and then hope that some other second tier guys want to come and help out. Or maybe clear some cap space, trade some of those veterans a year or two from now, and then bring in a superstar to go along with Trae Young. Bring in a big man where they can run the pick and roll and he can just fire up shots all day and knock down and beat Steph Curry. Or maybe you can bring in his version of a Klay Thompson. Maybe you can give him a Chris Middleton and then bring in some other guys a few years from now down at the end of the line. Who knows? But one way, you're not going to be able to cheat your way to the top. And this is why the Atlanta Hawks are a poor franchise, like most Atlanta sports teams. I don't understand why this man was fired. And this is another thing. Another black coach loses a job in professional sports. We're already seeing this across the board. And this is a sensitive topic for a lot of people who follow sports, especially black folks, because you feel like they're not getting a fair shake. But one thing I can say is that's not totally the story, because in the NBA, no one gets time. The players, it's very hard for coaches to actually have an imprint. I don't understand what's up with the NBA owners. They're not actual basketball people, which I think is the first part of the problem. But the black coaches do seem to have an even shorter leash than most NBA coaches. It doesn't make sense to me at all. Why? And this is why 80% of the teams have zero chance at even making noise in the playoffs. All they are just barnstorming franchises for good teams to pound on, either throughout the regular season or once the playoffs come. But this is why a lot of these teams are consistently bad in a league where most of the teams make the playoffs. It's pretty ridiculous. But this is one thing I want to see. I want to see black coaches get more opportunities at jobs that actually have talent, that actually have manpower there, where there's actually, if you're going to give them draft picks, it's got to be a lot of draft picks and a lot of cap space together, because I don't want to see guys like Lloyd Pierce with a lot of promise and a whole lot of assistant coaching experience coming into situations where they're just going to draft the stars for the next guy after, once they get fired. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Atlanta Hawks, you're a terrible franchise. You're going to have to give up some of those veterans now because you're going to have to start all over again. And it's still going to be 5 or 6 years before your team can possibly make noise. And now you're going to be in the position where the only way you're going to be able to make noise, listen to this, the only way you're going to be able to make noise is when the guys at the top of the East get old and their teams start to break up. So you're talking about Philly, you're talking about Brooklyn, you're talking about Milwaukee, you're talking about, that's about it. That's about it as far as the top of the East. You're going to have to wait till those teams get old and break up, and hopefully you'll be able to extract some pieces from one of those teams and try to make a run for it, because you're not a high-value free agent destination. That's just the simple facts. And you don't have the players there that today's players want to come and play with, in the prime of their career when they're chasing championships. So, yeah, I don't want to stick on this story too long. Shout out to Lloyd Pierce. He was a very great defensive coach for the Sixers. You saw the Sixers really suffer on defense once he left. Brett Brown leaned on him a lot more than people realized. And the guy really knows his basketball. He had a solid thing going there in Atlanta. I hate to see it end like that. They get everything they deserve. It's a terrible sports town. And yeah, that's just my take on it. I used to live in Atlanta. I still got a lot of family in Atlanta. Shout out to my Atlanta family, doing big things down there. Everybody's doing well. I hope everybody's still staying safe. The next sports topic that's got me scratching my head, figuratively and literally, J.J. Watt to the Arizona Cardinals. This is one of the biggest head scratchers ever, and I'm questioning what J.J. Watt really wants out of the last couple of years of his career. I don't know if it was about money or it was about competing, but over the last couple of weeks, we've been listening to the list of teams and the list of players or the list of destinations that J.J. Watt could possibly go to, and they were all competitive franchises that actually have a chance, that were actually, playoff teams that actually went deep into the playoffs. We're talking about my beloved Buffalo Bills. We're talking about the Tennessee Titans, who definitely could use a pass rusher. We were talking about the Green Bay Packers, who were one game away from the Super Bowl. These are the teams, we assumed that J.J. Watt would be more interested in if it was about competing. Now, we all know everyone's got limited cap space this year because of all the lost revenue with COVID. The salary cap is actually going to lower this year, somewhere between 180, 185 million. So that results in maybe $15 million of total cap space loss. They're not exactly sure, and they haven't announced exactly what it is. But everybody knew J.J. Watt was going to cost you some money. But let's be real. The guy is old. Now he's a future Hall of Famer. He's a free agent pass rusher. The guy really sets the edge on the defensive line. But his ability to change the game is not what it once was. It just isn't. And for him to choose the Arizona Cardinals, right? $31 million over 2 years, $23 million guaranteed. I just don't know if he's really about winning or was this just about money, because I don't understand what his motive is. The Arizona Cardinals didn't make the playoffs this year or last year. DeAndre Hopkins is a year older. If their defense really wasn't that bad, it could have been better, but it wasn't the worst defense you've ever seen. They needed to draft better. They needed to draft well. This is what they needed to do. I don't understand this move at all. You're going to put an aging star, a guy who's aged. I don't even want to say aging. He's aged. He's old, right? Around a bunch of guys you feel that weren't making a difference. He's not going to make them better. He's not. And you're in one of the toughest divisions in football. If the Niners are healthy, they have a chance to go deep in the playoffs in the NFC. The Seahawks are already a playoff team, and they're a good draft and a couple of pickups away from shoring up that defense and really giving the Rams, who are the best team in their division, and just upgraded their quarterback tremendously from the underachieving, very overrated Jared Goff. Now they got Matt Stafford. I don't think the Cardinals are going to be a 500 team in their division. DeAndre Hopkins is a year older, and I'm starting to see it. Yes, it's there. Aside from the few spectacular plays, he was not the difference maker that folks claimed he would be playing with Kyler Murray. And I'm just not so sure about the air raid offense with Cliff Kingsbury and everything. I like Kyler Murray as a quarterback. I'm just not sure how that offensive philosophy is sustainable in a division that likes to ground and pound when they're on offense. And if you ask me, if a healthy Matt Stafford with that Rams roster, he can shoot it out with you. Go ahead. You can have your receivers. You can have, Kyler Murray running around, firing the ball up and down the field. If you want to put the Rams back on the field, be my guest, because now they have a real quarterback. And now that ball is going to get distributed a lot cleaner all around that field, and the plays will be a lot more explosive. I just don't see that this move makes them better. And in a year with limited salary cap, I felt like they could have gone in other directions. And I don't think this was the best fit for JJ Watt at all. But you know what? Arizona's a nice place. It's sunny all the time. It's hot. It's relaxed. You're playing indoors. You're in the dome like you always were. You know, you're playing in a lot of fair weather most of the year. So I don't know what factors went into it. This was very surprising. Um, Arizona Cardinals, good luck. Good luck, because that is a tough division. Now he's going to be playing there with Chandler Jones, but your pass rush almost doesn't matter against teams that have a fully stocked receiving core and good quarterback play, because they will be getting that ball out quick. And I just don't know how much more JJ Watt can give you, especially for $31 million over 2 years with 23 guaranteed. I expected him to be able to earn that kind of money with incentives and performance incentives. They're just giving him the money up front. That is thirsty. And I don't like seeing franchises that are supposed to be on the rise with young quarterbacks being thirsty, because this is how you middle out. Right? You're already in the tough division. You need to be building that team to beat the teams in your division. And like I said, man, the guy's just older. He's an older player. That's a lot of money. Don't quite understand it. I will say this though. Good luck to JJ Watt. Never had a real issue with the guy as a player. He seems to play hard. I read a tweet today that some Texans unnamed sources were saying JJ only cares about his stats and really wasn't focused on helping the team last year, and he's really not the team player. But that sounds like a bit of sour grapes and kind of throwing salt at him on the way out the door. I don't really, I read some of those tweets and things like that. Not really a fan of that kind of stuff. I've seen it happen in the NFL all the time. Guys just get trashed on the way out. And honestly, I'm not so sure how many people on the Texans last year really wanted to go hard and put their careers on the line for a team that literally was not trying to win and trying their best to alienate their superstar quarterback. I've never seen a franchise work so hard to piss off a guy that is carrying them that they paid a whole lot of money to. I've never seen it. It's like they want to alienate their best player in the hope of selling tickets and merchandise in the franchise for the next 8-9 years. I don't get it. It's a bad business move. It's bad football moves over there in Houston. They got a lot of work to do. They're going to need to acquire some draft picks and figure some things out. So I don't know. But yeah, this Arizona Cardinals, I don't believe in it. I don't believe in it. Show me something, man. Show me something. They're gonna have to show. They're gonna have to show that division something, because I think the Rams have upgraded, and they are now actually. When I'm thinking about the NFC, they're most likely my favorite to overtake Tampa Bay in the NFC and reach the Super Bowl. Matt Stafford is that good, and with that team, that talent on both sides of the ball, you can forget about it. You can forget about it, especially you can forget about it for the Arizona Cardinals. That was a thirsty move. Have a glass of water, sit down. Once again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We're just getting started. This is at the end of the day, March 1st, 2021. I don't have a regular schedule, but I get on when I got something to say. So what I'm going to do is play a clip now about the next story, and we'll talk about it. Here we go. Oh, wait. I'm trying to play a news report. We're talking about the coronavirus vaccine. They're giving a vaccine update. And I definitely want to talk about the COVID that we've been living under. It's been a year, just about a year ago, before we were all banned from going into the office at my day job, or at my job. I ain't going to say my day job. That's my job. I need it. And I'm very fortunate to keep working through all of this. So here we go. All right, I think that's enough. Um, let's talk about the COVID vaccine. I know quite a few people have taken it. They haven't turned into lizard people. They haven't developed superpowers. Their melanin hasn't escaped their body, and they haven't been stripped of any of their motor skills, as far as I know. You know, it hasn't interacted with the 5G radio waves and disabled all of their their brain functions. And yeah, so it seems like it's pretty safe. And I want people to understand, from my understanding of it, you know, the COVID vaccine, it's not going to stop you from getting COVID, but it can pretty much ensure that you won't die from it or become severely ill. It'll help safeguard you against the effects of COVID-19, especially if you're a person that's elderly, high risk. If you're already somebody and the strands of COVID really don't affect you all that much, well, it's also going to help you as well, just for the chance that it actually does. Or it'll whatever. Even if you are asymptomatic, it'll just ensure that you remain that way. This Johnson and Johnson, the Moderna and the Pfizer that are out now, you need to take 2 doses. Johnson and Johnson is a single dose vaccine, which is what I'm way more comfortable with. I don't like getting stuck with needles. Just get it over. Hit me with the whole loaded once. I'm good. But the goal is, they're saying now, with the approval of this new vaccines, having 130 million people vaccinated by the end of March. That is a lot. I don't know how many people we have vaccinated right now, but I probably would guess it's in the low single millions, maybe 2-3 million. And if they could get 125 million people vaccinated by the rest of this month, there's nothing we can't do as a country if they can do that. And honestly, we're at the point where I understand people's concerns. When you're working with limited information and you develop the healthy mistrust for government and medicine and certain levels of science, and you subscribe to conspiracy as well, I could understand some trepidation with wanting to take the vaccine, but understand it's a real thing. People are dying. And we need to make sure that everyone is healthy enough to withstand this, because this is a part of our new way of life. The COVID is going to be here, just like the cold and the flu is every year. And then it's just going to become a routine thing that happens. As we build up our immunity, and then we continue to they start to develop medicines, and they continue to have these vaccines that we got to take every year because the viruses mutate. This is just a new form of life, a new way of life that we have to live. Man, for some reason I'm just like slipping up today. I don't know, but yeah, so we'll see, man. But 130 million by the end of March is big time. And I think once you get to the 200 million, 220, hopefully we can get there by this summer. They can start opening things up, getting people back to work, opening the streets up a little bit. Can't do it all at once, but if we can get to that 60-70% mark and people can get outside, especially when it's warm, without becoming gravely ill. You just heard the hospitalizations are at the lowest point they've been since early November. We just hope that trend continues, and yeah, so that's what's going on with the COVID vaccine. I definitely want to update on that. And I encourage everybody to get out there and at least sign yourself up to take it. And if you're not going to take it, just continue to follow precautions, wear your mask, sanitize your hands, wash your hands. Don't party in nightclubs without, where it's, you're not supposed to be, where it's 100 people in a 30 by 20 room, listening to the DJ and everybody sweating with poor ventilation. Try not to do that. Don't touch your hands in your face after touching things. Try to avoid that. I know it's hard. My eyebrow is itching right now, but I can't scratch it because then I would be a hypocrite for everything I'm telling you guys. All right. So just looking, at least take a look, get the facts, understand what vaccines are, how they work, understand how these vaccines work. And just sign yourself up, man. Protect the people you love, especially the older folks. If you're around older folks or just other people in general, Unless you're a hermit and you live under a rock or you live in a cave or you live some kind of sequestered lifestyle, have a little compassion for the people when you do go outside and you have to buy groceries. You got to go to Walmart to buy drawers, undershirts, things like that, buy supplies, whatever you need. Just have a little compassion for the people around you, because you never know what ailments they have, and that may, be detrimental once they contract COVID. So yeah, that is that. And then the next thing I want to talk about, 25. This story is from Business Insider. It's 23 progressive Democrats, including AOC, urged Biden to overrule top Senate official and keep a $15 minimum wage in the current stimulus package. So if you're not aware, the new stimulus package with this stimulus payments are in there. There's a bunch of things in the new bill, including virus relief. It's an extension of federal unemployment assistance. There's a lot of stuff in that package that we desperately need. And one of those things is the $2,000 checks. But the Democrats also wanted the government to raise the national minimum wage to $15 an hour. Now, the Senate is most likely going to say no. They don't agree. They don't agree that companies, because they just seem, the way they vote, the way they make decisions, they seem to side with big business. And it's, their whole agenda these last 35 years has been to line the pockets of corporate America and line the pockets of business owners, and especially the wealthy ones. So minimum wage is something that could help regular folk, but they're clearly not going to do that. And I know it sounds biased, but it's just the truth. We live in a society where the tail wags the dog. The people, like that. That's exactly what it is. How I feel about the minimum wage, I would like to see minimum wage raised to $15 an hour, but it has to make economic sense right now. And in the way the economy is right now, when many people don't already are on unemployment, we have these record levels of unemployment because of what we're going through with the coronavirus and the pandemic. I think this is a discussion that can be tabled until we start seeing some real recovery and people start going back to work. Because, all right, I would love for there to be a situation where the federal government could just come out and say, hey, $15 an hour minimum wage, this is what we're doing, abide by it or else face penalty. But how do you control, like, if you're a business that doesn't want to pay that because either it will, or you just want to claim that it could be detrimental to your bottom line or the health of your company or corporation, I mean, what's to incentivize you to actually follow the rule? This is going to be the thing. You're going to have to come up with something that's going to force their hand into providing that minimum wage, or you're going to have to scratch their back. That's just how these things work. You're going to have to incentivize these companies, especially the larger companies, to provide that $15 an hour minimum wage, because they're going to do everything. They're going to come up with every excuse in the book not to pay people more money. Now, the prevailing thought is like, oh, yeah, Senate supports poverty wages and things like that. It's like, I understand that. I get that. And I really do. But me personally, we're not ready for that discussion right now. Raising the minimum wage while millions and millions of people are at work is not going to incentivize companies to hire people once it's time to come back at $15 an hour. They've already made their adjustments, and they're going to need the craziest kind of incentivization to do it. And right now, I just don't, while millions of people are out of work, this could be counterproductive, in my opinion. I'm not, the number one economist. I'm just a guy that has a degree, that where the word economics is thrown around in there somewhere. I just think this is a discussion. It's highly political right now. And, and then also it needs to be pulled out of this package, because This package is ready to go aside from the minimum wage thing. And you need the Republicans in the Senate to vote on it and to approve it, to pass it. So Biden can sign it and we can get people help that they need. Get those $2,000 checks out or the $1,400 checks. And then the extra money for the dependents, the extra $600 per child and all that. Like, this is what needs to happen. Then this has to happen very soon. So this is a case where a lot of our liberals, our liberal politicians, AOC, I think they need to practice some compromise right now. We got the president, you got the administration you want. Just practice a little compromise and let's table this discussion at least until the fourth quarter or the beginning of next year. Let's get this ball rolling in 2022. Now is not the time while record millions of people are out of work. I just don't understand. So that's my opinion on that. I just hope they get this bill passed because it's been way too long. I think there's been a dangerous delay and dangerous patience. The government's, the politicians, to me, have been focused on things that are kind of trivial or things that could have waited rather than focusing on getting relief to these people as soon as possible. So I definitely don't want anything impeding the business at hand, especially when you're trying to get people vaccinated and you got a lot of virus relief funds in there to get more people vaccinated and to give people the resources to serve the communities that actually need it. This is just not the time, in my opinion. But, we're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens with that story. I really don't have a lot more today to talk about. So at the end of the day, March 1st, 2021, this is another episode down.